What's up guys, Caleb here from Reality Check, and today in RC News we're not going to be talking about anything tech focused or science focused or in the world of gaming releases, trailers, stuff like that. Today we're going to be talking about quite a serious topic, and it was the shooting that went down in Florida over the weekend at a Madden gaming tournament. And it was pretty hectic. There were some fatalities, a lot of people were injured, and apparently the shooter did commit suicide after it all went down. But I just wanted to talk about it because often when these things come up, when we start talking about gun violence and we start talking about mass shootings, we see a lot of correlations being made between how video game violence kind of instills a need or a want to experience that violence in real life. Before we get started on anything, there's a couple of things I want to touch on. First and foremost, my hearts and thoughts, and everyone here from Reality Check, our prayers go out to the families who were experiencing loss through this tough time and who had people injured in this awful scenario. Our thoughts and prayers are with you. And secondly, we're not going to give out any names or informations about potential suspects because this isn't about highlighting them. This isn't about bringing attention or glory to the person who committed these atrocities. This is about us having conversations about real world problems that are going on in our society and other societies around the world. Now, the reason I wanted to start talking about this is because as soon as we start talking about gun violence, gun control, as soon as there's a mass shooting, a conversation around gaming always comes up where there's this unproven correlation between the violence we experience in video games and then how that kind of translates to us committing violence in real life. And there's nothing backing that up, but it always seems to be a conversation that people want to start having. So let's talk about that today. Here's the thing about it, right? So people say, oh, you shoot someone in real life, you go through like a psychotic rage on GTA 5, and then you want to take that and do that in the real world. But there's been no scientific studies backing that up. There is no correlation between the violent games that we play and the violence that happens in the real world. There is no connection, there's no proven causality between the two, and it's weird that people are consistently and constantly trying to make it about that. There are 5 million other things in the world that involve violence in a virtual sense that don't necessarily correlate to violence in the real world. For starters, movies and series probably show much more graphic violence. Obviously, it's not real, but it's made to look real with fake blood, action sequences, stunt doubles, all that kind of violence is real violence that we're taking in, but no one's ever making that a correlation about the violence between the virtual world and the... Then we have other things like other games that aren't necessarily shooting based, but still kind of involve a lot of violence. Things like MMA, even MMA in the real world that people watch and consume. Wrestling, you have things like NFL, which is what they were playing where the shooting happened over the weekend. All of these things involve physical content, involve inciting violence and promoting violence, but still no real world connection because people are smart enough to take into context what's happening in the virtual world and what's happening in the real world, right? So you are aware of the consequences of your actions in real life, and you don't correlate what you're doing in the virtual world to be a real world reflection of who you are and what you're capable of. I think punching someone in a video game is not nearly the same thing as punching someone in the real life. I think that playing a violent shooter game is not even close to the same thing as being involved in real world killings and having real world gun experiences, having been in a war. And it's just this assumption that people are not smart enough to make the distinction. Like, obviously you get people with psychotic illnesses, you get people who have mental instabilities, and then can't necessarily distinguish between the virtual and the real, or kind of take those experiences and translate them into their real life. But for the majority of people, for the majority of gamers, we're just normal people. We just like to play games. And yes, of course, we experience violence. Everyone does on a day-to-day basis. We get exposed to it from all forms of media. But we are capable and we're smart and we're intelligent and we're able to distinguish what the difference is here. Like, I'm not going to play GTA 5 for 6 hours in one day and then go out, jack someone in a car and just start shooting up the whole sidewalk. People do these things without the need for video game violence. People are crazy and psychotic and violent due to every other factor that's influencing them in the world. They don't need to pin that reason on video games. Like, I see violence daily in South Africa. It's a cop-out, that's what I feel. I think it's a weak excuse, and it's not looking at the actual problem that's prevalent in our societies and not looking at things like gun control, which I don't necessarily want to get into. I don't want to get into the politics or that side of things, but you need to look at the root cause. You can't look at something where there's no causal link. Like, yes, you see violence in video games and then you see violence in real life and you want to smash the two together, but there's no real link. And if we keep on focusing on that kind of thing, if we keep making it about we need to start promoting violence in music videos and games and series, which I also guess is true to a certain sense, but not in the context of there being these real world mass shootings that have other problems at their cause, then it's never going to stop. It's just concerning, and I wonder how many people are going to have to die before we stop making or putting the responsibility on the problem of people who have nothing to do with it and actually start looking at the cause of the problem to kind of fix it. But I just wanted to talk about that, guys. I want to hear what your thoughts are. Obviously, it's different in South Africa. We don't necessarily have the mass shootings in the same context like they do in America. I think we still have a problem with gun violence. I think we still have a problem with gun control, and obviously gun violence is a big issue in this country. But let me know what your thoughts are about it. I mean, do you guys agree or disagree? Do you think that there is a link between the violence we experience in video games and then the violence that people promote and pursue in real life? Personally, I don't, but let's start a conversation around it because clearly no one's having the conversation. And let's just get this thing going. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you like this piece of content, guys. Don't forget to hit the little bell icon so you can get notified of more videos when we upload them. And I will catch you for the next installment of Reality Check. Peace.